People come from all walks of life. They all have lives they lead. Any and all are welcome here to come and chat with me.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm really pleased to have today's guest on because of his concerns about social inequality, housing affordability, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, time to get to know a little bit about Cody Chance. So welcome to the show, Cody.
Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. Okay, so tell me about your passions for social concern. Like, when did that start for you?
Oh, I mean, it's always kind of been a thing, but really started in the last 2 years. Yeah, there's a lot of happenings locally. Some movements sort of started into this realm, and I kind of got pulled into that, and it got me passionate about it as well.
Yeah.
I cared before, but it seemed like something that other people were working on, and now it feels like I need to be a part of this.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, we have power to make change as well.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of what got me into it.
That's really great. I like that. You're talking about one of the things in particular is wealth inequality. So what do you think we could do about that?
I think that we need to have more efficient use of taxation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in some sense, some people should be paying more potentially, who have more available to give.
Mm-hmm.
But it also needs to be going to more efficient places. I think that a lot of times we target symptoms,
Right.
rather than targeting the root causes of things.
Right.
And I think that more than anything, that's our issue. If you target the root causes of things, several things happen. One, it's just better for everyone, and number two, it's actually cheaper. So if anything, our taxation could decrease if we actually helped people in a more efficient way.
Right. Mm-hmm.
If we want crime to decrease, police are absolutely necessary, but adding more policing doesn't stop crime.
Right.
Whereas targeting, say, poverty, if you actually reduce poverty, reduce generational poverty, increase education, those things reduce crime, right?
Yes.
So if we target those root causes instead of going after the symptoms, we end up with the result that we're looking for, but also extra benefits on top of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Targeting poverty doesn't just decrease crime, it
Yeah.
also decreases healthcare costs.
Right.
It's good for human rights. People aren't hungry anymore, right? There's so many benefits to targeting those causes, rather than allowing them to get to these horrible symptoms that our society has.
Yeah. It is sad. One of the other things you mentioned is affordable housing. Now, are you including rent in that?
Yeah. So affordable housing is kind of it's a complex thing, and people, the same term gets used for many different things. When I talk about affordable housing, I'm not just talking about, say, subsidized housing or housing for homeless people. I'm talking about just in general, people can't afford to live in homes. Rent continues to increase. Home ownership is far out of reach for most people, even with a reasonable income. And so there's a lot of things that we can do to bring affordable housing, make housing in general more affordable for people. And in a lot of ways, it helps everyone, you know. Um, People wouldn't need to work as hard or have 2 or 3 jobs or these things if their mortgage wasn't, you know, even if they can afford 3,000 or 4,000 a month, what if they didn't have to?
Yeah.
Right? What if that mortgage cost was also cheaper? That would make their lives better as well, right? They aren't what we would consider poor people, you know, but it would also help them in many ways, you know.
Yeah, they can spend their money on other things.
Oh, absolutely, you know, and it's also, there's a much larger aspect of it in just, it diversifies the economy,
Mhm.
right? Instead of it just being focused on housing, it can be focused on lots of things, including, you know, small business. You know,
Yes.
if people aren't spending all of their money on housing, they're able to go to your shop, they're able to go to your restaurant, they're able to buy the goods that you're trying to sell. That, you know, and a lot of times people have to go to the Amazon because that's the only thing that's affordable, right? Or they have to go to
Yes.
Walmart because that's the only thing that's affordable.
Yes.
Where if they have more disposable income, they're able to go to craft shops. They're able to buy unique goods that people have to offer,
Yeah.
and that helps. Again, that helps everyone, right? That helps communities, and it helps normal people who are also just trying to get by. So there's so many benefits to housing just being more affordable.
One of the things I think about is the rent. Like, I know that sometimes a basement suite is now like $1,400, and it seems to be so out of line with people's income. You know, if it's just a
Absolutely.
one room, it's not like you're gonna have a roommate. I understand. I was a landlord at one time. I understand landlords want to make money, but it's just out of whack somehow.
Yeah.
It-
And you know, one thing too, like I talk about this with friends, I talk about this online, and a lot of people, again, they bring up this whole thing of landlords, and a lot of times landlords, they're just normal middle class people. They aren't necessarily wealthy,
Mhm.
and a lot of times they have to have renters to make their ends meet, right? I
Yes.
mean, most of the basement suites, you've got the landlord upstairs, you know. And if they didn't have someone in the basement renting from them, they wouldn't have been able to afford to buy a house either. So it's something that, again, if we're able to make that housing more affordable. Now, does anyone who owns a house really want to have renters in the basement? They probably don't,
No.
right? They would probably rather have a more affordable single story house where they don't have to have someone living in their basement, right? So there's kind of, again, it kind of helps everyone if we can bring those costs down,
Mhm.
and have more housing options available. You know, if you want a single story rancher, where do you find one, right? Like, a lot of the houses that are being built are very large, and they fit a particular type of family, but they don't fit everyone who's looking for housing in a community.
Right.
And so a lot of people are stuck not being able to find the size of house that they're looking for, um, or the type of housing that they're looking for, you know.
Yeah.
Some people are perfectly fine in an apartment. Some people want to have they don't want someone on the other side of a wall, right?
Yes.
So having smaller, sort of single family homes, is also something that's needed, you know.
Mhm.
And on the you know, on this even smaller side, there's going to be people who are completely happy with a micro apartment, you know, something that's literally 400 square feet. There are lots of people who are perfectly happy with that, not just because it's more affordable, but because they just don't have a lot of stuff. They don't want to collect a lot of stuff. They maybe don't have kids,
Right.
and they spend a lot of time, you know, outdoors in the cities, and they just don't need a large house.
Yeah. One of the things I personally would like to see, like, I'm now in an apartment. I had a house, a small house, but it had a big yard. And I wanted to have like a family member who has a mobile, you know, like a camper, something, if they could have lived on my property, but it wasn't permitted.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, why not? You know, and there's no, I know it's a bylaw, but I don't understand why that bylaw. Because that would have helped me stay there, and that would have given my family member a place to stay. You know, it would have been a
Absolutely.
great solution. There was an alley, so they could use the alley as their driveway, right? It would have been a perfect solution, but it wasn't, again, like, you know, for whatever reason, it's not allowed.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why there must have been a reason why that bylaw was put into effect, but maybe now it's time to change those things, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You know, it's interesting because our society, we can be that picky. You can't have a camper in your backyard once people can afford homes, right? If everyone can afford a home and you want homes to not be campers, you don't want campers in your neighborhood, fine. I guess at that point you can make that a rule. But right now, those rules are stopping people from having any form of housing.
Right.
And that's the part that bugs me, you know.
Yes.
You can't be picky until those human rights are met, you know. There's actually I can't remember the city, and there's a city in the States that actually has 3 tiny home plans available. The city actually has these available, and they will offer them to people for free. They will do free city hookups to anyone who has a lane behind their home. They will actually, you have to obviously pay to build the unit, but the plans come for free. They're pre-approved because the city has already said these 3 styles of home meet our, you know, requirements. And they reduce the cost of that to the homeowner, to the landowner, by offering the city hookups for free. You know, so it helps, again, it helps the homeowner, but it also helps immediately add more housing to that city at a low cost. You know, and something like that seems so common sense to me. You know, it seems like such a simple solution to it. The city knows what types of housing they want. But the zoning approvals process to get a second home built are restrictive, you know, and there's obviously reasons for that. But if the city could pre-approve certain types of homes and eliminate that barrier, more housing would be built. You know, it's no, it's there. There's just, I think that there's so many solutions that we're just missing. You know, and like you say, if all that someone can afford to live in is a camper, how can the government possibly, any level of government, how can they possibly stop that from being their home?
You know, and then there's one of the things you mentioned is tiny home legitimization. I think the tiny homes solution is excellent. Like if I want a tiny home, that would be great, but where do I go? Where do I put it? You know, there's one for me, that would be an issue, right?
Absolutely.
You have to have a piece of land to put it on.
And you know, it's as far as the laws are concerned, BC Building Code does not allow tiny homes, you know, or at least the tiny homes that we think of as being, you know, 10 feet wide, 30 feet long sort of thing. They don't allow those. They don't allow lofts in tiny homes. So even if you build something that meets all the other aspects of building code, a lot of times, because it's a small space, you want to go up a little bit and have your bedroom. All you do is sleep there, right? You can have that on the second story, have it only 4 feet or 5 feet tall, whatever it is. But BC Building Code doesn't allow for that. Where Nova Scotia and actually they added it, I believe in 2019, they added a tiny home sort of an addendum to their building code. And the International Residential Code, which is used all across the states through Mexico and a number of Caribbean countries. They also added tiny homes, I think back in 2018.
Wow.
So the legislation is already built, in the States,
Yeah,
and again in Nova Scotia. That's a Canadian legislation that already exists.
yes,
Um, it's proven to be safe,
yes,
and so I'm pushing I'm pushing to get that added to the building code for BC, and it sounds like the next federal building code is going to be a little bit stronger
hmm,
and be adopted by all provinces. And so I'm trying to get it added to that as well. It already exists. There's not a whole lot of effort that needs to go into that. There just needs to be a little bit of political will.
yes, absolutely. I live on Spadina, and right now they're tearing, a number of homes were sold, and they're older homes, and they're tearing them down because they want to build a condo.
Yeah.
Another condo, right? And there's lots of condos on my street. But I thought, wouldn't that be nice if there were these tiny little homes all lined up? I mean, I understand you're not going to have the same number of people living there,
Yeah.
so that's maybe not as attractive to a contractor,
Yeah.
or investors, whatever. But it is such a nice solution, I think, and it's nicer. It looks better.
Yeah.
Than another high rise going up somewhere.
Absolutely. And again, it's not. People worry about, density. You want to increase density, and that's true. We do want to increase density, but we also need a multitude of options, right? Again, there's a lot of different types of homes,
Mhm.
and a lot of different people want different types of homes, and so yeah, we absolutely need condos, and we need more of them, but we also need small detached homes.
Yes.
And a lot of those smaller homes, there used to be homes that were 800 square feet, and they've been demolished, and larger homes go in their place. And I think that there's definitely space to have tiny homes. And like you say, if they're all facing the road, just have a number of them side by side,
Yeah.
and they look, like you say, they look amazing, and they add character, and they give homes to more people.
Yeah.
You can fit more tiny homes onto a city lot than you can, a single family home. And there's one house versus, say, 6 houses.
Absolutely.
That's 6 families. Now they might be smaller families, but guess what? Smaller families exist. And they need homes too.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, currently you're very active, actively participating in the Chilliwack Citizens for Change.
Yes.
So in what capacity are you involved with?
I'm a member of the board, and also we have a co-op housing initiative and a tiny homes initiative that I've been part of the founding of. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. CCFC is such an interesting and exciting community and organization, because we don't just do one thing. We don't even just do 2 or 3 things. Whatever people are passionate about
Mhm.
and making positive change
Yes.
is what we do.
Yeah.
There wasn't really any work on tiny homes before
Right.
I joined and said, hey, why aren't we doing any tiny home stuff? And a bunch of people jumped on board, and now we're working on that. We're working on co-op housing. Whatever comes up, whatever someone's passion is, whatever, sometimes there's emerging things. When COVID hit, food insecurity was a huge issue.
Right.
So we started into that. Let's work on food security. Let's make that a thing. So we get pulled around wherever we're kind of needed, wherever the membership wants us, to meet all sorts of needs.
Yes.
It's really exciting.
I'm glad you're doing that. I think that's wonderful. And I was looking at all your hobbies, and I'm thinking, no way, when do you have time to do your hobbies? Because I know you have a full-time job.
Yeah.
Then you're on, these boards and all your concerns, and it's like, okay, when do you have any leisure time?
That's a great question. Yeah. there's, there's not a whole lot of time for doing other things, but yeah, I fit it in, and you know, I have various friends who, even if I don't think I have time for it, they say, hey, come out, let's go hiking, let's go take photos or whatever, let's go for a bike ride.
Time for
And
a little play. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, when you have someone else who's interested in something,
Yeah.
it pulls you out of the house too, right? So
Yes. No, I know that also in your bio, you mentioned something about you want to change as far as career.
yeah,
Right? And you're looking for something, but not sure what you want.
yeah.
I think that's exciting when you're just sort of open to whatever comes your way, right?
Yeah, you know, I've never, you know, I didn't, when I was growing up, it wasn't like this is the thing I need to do. But that's sort of starting to happen. As I say, it's just really in the last few years that I've started getting into community service and advocacy.
Right.
And, you know, as I've gotten more involved in that and the conversations that I've had with people, that's really where I'm being pulled now.
Mm.
And again, I don't know exactly what that looks like. Um, but opportunities keep sort of popping up, and I'm like, huh, I didn't even know that was an option, you know. So that's kind of that's where I'm headed. And again, I don't know what I don't know what that's going to look like, and whatever form it takes, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's fun.
Yeah,
That's fun. Like when people are open to whatever the change, you know, like I said, well, open to a change, and then somebody finds you somewhere along the way, and it's like, oh yeah, that's when I never thought about that. But yeah, what a good way.
yeah, absolutely. There's millions of jobs out there, and most people don't know about any of them, right?
That's right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I just want to know, what is digital painting?
Digital painting. So I have a graphics tablet. So it has a screen, and it's a touch screen with a pen. And so it's using painting techniques, but on a computer. So it's really cool. Some people think that it's cheating. I like to think of it as being able to do what paint might not necessarily be able to.
Yes.
And I know Bob Ross says that that there's no such thing as mistakes, because you can always turn it into something beautiful. But sometimes you make a mistake anyways, and when you're working digitally, there's always the undo button, you know.
I call those creative glitches.
That, yeah, exactly. So yeah.
Well, hopefully somebody will see this interview and think, you know, this is a person I might like to work with. Wouldn't that be fun?
Hey, who knows? Yeah.
Anyway, I think we're just about out of time.
Right.
Just wondering if there's something that I haven't mentioned that you would like to bring up. Oh, local politics.
Local politics. Yeah. Yeah, you know, again, as far as community service is concerned, that's what politics is as well. And I don't have any hard plans to get into politics necessarily, but
Right.
I am open to it. I always think of myself as an ideas person.
Mhm.
And a really interesting part of, you know, municipal politics is that you're able to take in ideas, you're able to talk about ideas,
Right.
and then you have people who are experts in so many fields, who are there to back you up in those ideas, you know. So you don't necessarily need to be an expert in every subject, because there's others there to help you with that. So it's I think that Chilliwack has a lot of great people, and I think that there's a lot of great ideas that are flying around, that just need to be implemented, you
Right.
know. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And one thing I have learned with doing the show is there's so many generous business owners here in Chilliwack willing to help and support. It's also really, really great, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. Who was talking about that? Someone was just saying that Chilliwack and Abbotsford are two of the most giving cities in the province. You
Yeah,
know,
I believe it. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Anyway, that's it for time. So just hang on while I say goodbye to the audience.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, I really hope you enjoyed listening to what Cody Chance had to say. And yeah, if you want to reach out to him, Cody, you're on Facebook, right?
Yep.
So they can contact you there, or they can let me know, and I would certainly pass that message along. Want to thank everybody for watching this show, and peace out, everyone.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.